Lily was the kind of person people often forgot to thank, but never forgot to ask for help. She lived a quiet life in a small apartment on the edge of the city. Each morning, she woke up early, made herself tea, and smiled at the sky even when no one was looking. She believed that if you put good into the world, somehow, good would come back to you. That was how she was raised. That was how she believed life worked. At her job in a small design office, Lily was the quiet one. She didn't speak much in meetings. She didn't push her opinions. But she was always there, first to arrive, last to leave, the one who would stay behind to help someone finish their deadline, even when her own work was done. She remembered birthdays, noticed small details, brought coffee for someone who looked tired, and asked people if they had eaten lunch. She didn't do it to impress anyone. She didn't even do it to feel better about herself. She simply believed that kindness mattered. But as the months passed, something began to shift inside her. It started small, like a slow change in weather. She would get home at night and sit on the couch, staring at the wall, wondering why she felt so heavy. Her body wasn't tired, but something deeper was. She began to notice things she hadn't seen before or perhaps had refused to see. Like how her coworkers came to her when they needed help, but never asked how she was, or how they praised the group when something went well, but no one ever mentioned her name, even when it was her who stayed until midnight fixing the details. At first, she tried to brush it off. "It's okay," she told herself. "I didn't do it for the credit." But that didn't stop the quiet ache that grew each time she felt invisible. There was a time when one of her friends asked her to help move apartments. Lily arrived early in the morning, carried boxes, organized shelves, even cleaned the fridge without being asked. Her friend hugged her and promised, "I'll help you next time you need anything." The next week, when Lily asked for help carrying some furniture she had bought second-hand, that same friend said, "Ah, I'm sorry. I'm just so busy right now." Lily smiled and said, "No worries." But when she hung up the phone, she sat down and felt a silence inside her heart. It wasn't sadness. Not exactly. It was something deeper. A sense that she had been quietly giving, and no one was truly seeing her. She began to wonder, was she really being kind or just easy to use? That thought scared her. She didn't want to become someone bitter. She didn't want to stop being kind. But she couldn't ignore the feeling anymore that her kindness was slowly turning into something painful. One Friday night, after staying late at work to fix a mistake someone else had made, Lily took the train home. The office was empty when she left. No one had said thank you. No one had even noticed she was still there. She sat by the window on the train, watching the lights pass. Her reflection stared back at her tired eyes, quiet face, the same soft expression she always wore. But for the first time, she wondered if maybe that softness was costing her too much. The next morning, Lily met her friend Emma at a small cafe near the park. She hadn't planned to talk about anything serious, but when Emma asked, "How are you really doing?" something inside her broke open. "I don't know," Lily said. "I just feel worn out." Emma tilted her head gently. "From work?" "From everything," Lily replied. "From giving so much and feeling like it never really matters." Emma didn't say anything at first. She just looked at Lily for a long, thoughtful moment. Then she said something that Lily had never heard before. "Maybe being good isn't enough." Lily blinked. "What do you mean?" Emma leaned closer. "I mean, maybe the world doesn't work the way we wish it did. Maybe people don't value kindness the way you do. And if you don't protect your kindness, Lily, it turns into something people take without thinking." Lily didn't respond, but her chest tightened. The words stayed with her. That night she couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring into the quiet street outside. Her bookshelf stood beside her. She ran her fingers along the spines of old books she hadn't touched in years. One of them caught her attention, a worn, thin volume, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. She remembered reading it once in college. Back then, it felt cold, ruthless, nothing like the life she wanted to live. But something made her open it again. She flipped through the pages, not looking for anything specific, just letting the words find her. And then she saw the sentence, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." She frowned. That wasn't who she wanted to be. She didn't want people to fear her. But she understood, suddenly, what the words were really saying. It wasn't about fear. It was about strength, presence, respect, because deep down Lily knew she was not being respected. And for the first time she admitted something to herself that she had never dared to think before. Her kindness was beautiful, but it was unprotected, unmeasured, unguarded, and that kind of kindness, pure and open and always available, was starting to hurt her more than it helped anyone else. She closed the book slowly. Her fingers rested on the cover. She whispered into the night, "Maybe it's time I stop being easy to use." The next morning, Lily woke up early. She hadn't slept well. Her thoughts were too loud. But strangely, her heart felt clearer than it had in weeks. She walked to the kitchen and made tea like always. The same routine. The same quiet kitchen. But something inside her had changed. She sat down at the table, still in her pajamas, with the book The Prince lying next to her. She hadn't planned to read more, but the cover seemed to call her back. It didn't feel like a harsh book anymore. It felt honest, not sweet, but sharp like a knife that cuts away illusions. She opened a random page and read, "The world is not as it should be. The wise learn to see it as it is." Lily closed her eyes. That line stayed with her all day. For years, she had believed in the world as it should be. A place where kindness was returned, where good people were rewarded, where effort was recognized. She held onto that belief even when her own experience didn't match it. Now she was starting to understand something she hadn't wanted to admit. The world didn't always reward goodness. It rewarded awareness. It rewarded people who could read the room, protect their value, and speak with intention, not just warmth. That was her first quiet awakening. She spent the weekend thinking more deeply than she had in a long time. She thought about every moment she had said yes when she wanted to say no. She remembered the times she laughed to keep the peace, stayed quiet to avoid conflict, or gave without ever being asked, hoping deep down that someone would finally see her effort. She realized that she had been hoping for something the world didn't always give: recognition, respect, balance. And she saw something else, too, something that hurt more than she expected. She had trained people to treat her the way they did, not on purpose, but by always being available, by never complaining, by hiding her tiredness behind a polite smile, by giving too much too often without asking for anything in return. She had taught people that her time, her effort, her care were free. And when something comes free for too long, people forget its value. That was her second awakening. On Monday, Lily returned to work. But this time she didn't walk in the same way. She still wore the same gentle smile, still said good morning to the front desk, still made tea for herself and others, but something invisible had shifted. She sat down at her desk and made a quiet promise to herself. I will not give myself away today. She would still be kind, still be helpful, but she would not volunteer for every extra task. She would not stay late because someone else didn't manage their time. And most of all, she would not apologize for taking space. Her first test came before lunch. Her coworker, Jard, came by her desk with his usual tired sigh. "Hey Lily, I'm behind on this client report. Any chance you could help me finish it before 3? Normally, Lily would have said yes without thinking, but today she paused. She looked up from her screen, took a breath, and said, I have some things I need to finish by then. I hope it works out, though. Jard blinked. Oh, he said, yeah, okay. He walked away. Lily's heart beat a little faster, not from fear, but from something new. It was the first time she had said no without feeling guilty, and the world didn't collapse. That was her third awakening. The rest of the day, Lily kept her focus. She did her work well. She helped one colleague who was genuinely in need, but she didn't overextend herself. She didn't jump at every request. She didn't fill the empty spaces in others' schedules with her own energy. By the end of the day, she felt lighter, not because she had done less, but because she had done only what was hers to do. On the train ride home, she stared out the window again. But this time her reflection looked different, still quiet, still soft, but not exhausted. There was something new behind her eyes, intention. Over the next few days, Lily continued her quiet experiment. She didn't change who she was, she still smiled, still said thank you, still noticed when someone was struggling. But she no longer felt responsible for saving everyone. She didn't rush to fill every silence. She didn't explain herself when she didn't want to. She didn't say sorry when she hadn't done anything wrong. And slowly, something even more surprising began to happen. People started to treat her differently. They listened when she spoke. They asked before assuming. They seemed to sense the quiet boundary she had placed around herself. It was invisible, but it was real, like a fence made of respect. Emma noticed the change too. "You feel more grounded lately," she said during one of their walks. "I think I'm just clearer now," Lily replied. Emma smiled. "It's strange, isn't it? You didn't get louder, you didn't become mean. But people are noticing you more." Lily nodded. "Because I stopped giving everything away without thinking." Emma paused. "So you're still kind?" "Always," Lily said. "But now I know who I'm being kind to and why." That night Lily journaled. She didn't usually write much. But the thoughts were flowing now and she didn't want to lose them. She wrote, "Kindness without clarity becomes a cage. I thought I was helping everyone, but I was slowly disappearing. Now I understand something new. Kindness is powerful, but only when it's protected." As she closed her notebook and turned off the light, Lily felt something deep inside her begin to settle. She wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She was simply aware. The kind of awareness that doesn't shout. The kind that watches quietly and decides carefully. It was the kind of awareness that could make kindness strong instead of soft and breakable. That night, for the first time in her adult life, Lily started to understand something she had always tried to ignore. People don't always treat you based on who you truly are. They treat you based on who they think you are. And what people think of you is shaped not only by your actions, but by your presence, your expression, your boundaries, your silence, your decisions. Everything speaks, even the things you don't say. This idea didn't come to her all at once. It grew slowly, like light slipping into a dark room. It started with small changes. One morning at work, a junior colleague walked into the office late. His eyes scanned the room, looking for someone to cover for him. His gaze landed on Lily's desk and paused. He opened his mouth, as if ready to ask a favor. But then he stopped. Lily didn't say a word, she didn't frown, she didn't cross her arms. She was simply sitting there, calm, quiet, focused. But something in her stillness told him, not this time. He turned to someone else. That moment stayed with her all day. She hadn't spoken, hadn't refused, and yet her presence had said enough. She remembered a quote she had underlined in the prince. "It is not enough to be wise or strong. You must appear wise, you must appear strong." Lily had always focused on being good. She never thought much about appearing anything. But now she was beginning to see how much that mattered. That evening she walked home a little slower, thinking about how the world actually worked, not the world she had imagined, but the real one. It wasn't just her effort that shaped people's behavior toward her. It was the way she carried herself. If she always rushed to say yes, people assumed she had nothing else to do. If she smiled through exhaustion, people assumed she had energy to spare. If she never spoke up when interrupted, people assumed her words didn't matter. She had been teaching others how to treat her, not by what she said, but by what she allowed. And the more invisible she made herself, the more invisible she became. The next day she experimented. When someone interrupted her during a meeting, she didn't stay silent. She didn't raise her voice or get defensive. She simply paused, turned gently, and said, "Let me finish my thought first." The room went quiet. For a split second she felt panic. Was that too much, too direct? But then something unexpected happened. People nodded. The conversation slowed. And when she finished, the team actually discussed her idea. They didn't rush past it. It was the first time in months her voice had truly been heard in that room. She realized then, strength doesn't always mean volume. Sometimes it's in the tone. Sometimes it's in the pause. Sometimes it's in the way you don't back down. That's when it hit her. Respect doesn't come from kindness alone. It comes from presence, from clarity, from how you carry your worth. That weekend, Lily sat at her desk and began a new page in her notebook. At the top, she wrote, "Who do people think I am and why?" She listed some of the words people had used to describe her over the years. Sweet, helpful, quiet, easygoing, soft. They weren't bad words. In fact, they were lovely, but they weren't whole. No one had ever described her as strong, as assertive, as respected, as someone you don't want to disappoint. And maybe it was time for that to change. Not by becoming someone else, not by pretending, but by letting people see the parts of her she had kept hidden for too long. Her strength, her standards, her voice. On Monday, she dressed a little differently. Nothing flashy, nothing loud, But instead of blending in, she chose something with structure, sharper lines, deeper colors. She wore her hair up instead of down. She stood a little taller. When she walked into the office, people noticed. It wasn't about beauty. It wasn't about style. It was about intention. She looked like someone who knew what she wanted, someone who had a direction. Later that day, her manager asked her to join a meeting she wasn't usually invited to. He said, "I think we've been underusing your ideas. I'd like to hear more from you." Lily nodded, hiding her surprise. But inside, something quiet and powerful was rising. She didn't need to beg for space anymore. She was beginning to command it without saying a word. But the lesson of perception wasn't only about work. It touched every part of her life. In her friendships, she started noticing how much time she spent explaining herself, apologizing for being unavailable, explaining why she couldn't help this weekend, justifying why she didn't text back right away. She started letting go of that habit. She realized, when people see you as someone valuable, you don't need to explain your boundaries. They respect them naturally. She stopped replying to messages the moment they came in. She stopped accepting every last-minute request. She stopped smiling through discomfort. And slowly, something changed. People checked in more often. They spoke to her with more care. They offered help without her asking. The world was beginning to mirror what she projected. Not fear, not coldness, but clarity, value, self-respect. One night, Lily and Emma sat together on the rooftop of her building, watching the stars. Emma took a sip of her drink and said, "You've really changed." Lily looked at her, smiling softly. "I think I've just returned to myself." Emma raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" "It means," Lily said gently, "that I stopped trying to prove I'm good by giving everything away. I still care, but now I care about how I'm seen too. Not to impress others, but to protect what I give." Emma nodded slowly. "That's powerful." Lily looked up at the night sky. "It's strange," she whispered. "I thought the world would like me less if I pulled back, if I stopped being so available. But now people see me more, not less." Emma smiled. "That's the magic of perception." Later that night, Lily wrote one more line in her journal. "In a world full of noise, quiet confidence speaks loudest." She had spent years thinking that if she was just kind enough, gentle enough, generous enough, people would see her value. But now she understood. People don't see value because you give more. They see value when you carry yourself like you're worth something. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing approval. You start attracting respect. And your kindness, no longer taken for granted, becomes something rare and therefore precious. Lily used to believe that kindness was something you either had or didn't, that it came from your heart and nothing else. You didn't think about it. You didn't plan it. You just gave because it was right. But now things felt different. She didn't feel less kind. She felt more in control of her kindness. She was no longer giving by instinct. She was giving by choice. And in that choice, she discovered a quiet kind of power. It began with a simple question she asked herself each morning. Who needs my energy today, and who only wants to take it? It wasn't always easy to answer. Some days she still wanted to say yes to everyone. But now she paused. She considered. And more often than not, she realized something surprising. Not everyone who asked for her kindness deserved it. That realization didn't make her cold. It made her wiser. One afternoon, she got a text from a colleague she barely knew. Someone who rarely spoke to her unless they needed something. Hey, Lily, sorry to bother. Can you help fix my presentation slides again? I know you're good at that. The old Lily would have dropped everything. Not because she wanted to, but because she felt obligated to be helpful. But now she paused. She read the message again. She remembered how this same person had once taken credit for something she fixed weeks ago. Lily didn't respond right away. She went back to her work, finished what was important to her. 2 hours later, she replied, "Hi, I can't help with that today. I'm focusing on my own tasks. Hope you get it sorted." That was it, no apology, no long explanation, just a soft, clear boundary. And once again, the world didn't end. The colleague didn't reply. That was okay. Lily felt lighter. She had protected her energy and with it her dignity. The more she practiced, the easier it became. She learned that being kind doesn't mean saying yes all the time. Sometimes kindness is saying no to something that drains you. Wait to someone who always rushes you. Enough to someone who has crossed your line too many times. Sometimes kindness is not doing and letting others take responsibility for what's theirs. That lesson came clearly during a group project at work. Her team had to deliver a report. As always, people started late, forgot deadlines, and began depending on Lily to pull it all together. But this time she didn't. She completed her part with care. She sent her section early, but when the others fell behind, she didn't jump in to rescue them. She watched them scramble, heard the panic in their voices, felt the rising tension, and she stayed calm. When the manager asked why the report wasn't finished, Lily spoke clearly. "I finished my part last Thursday. I shared it with the group. I believe the rest was still in progress." The silence in the room was loud. No one blamed her. They couldn't, because this time she had done her part and let others be responsible for theirs. After the meeting, one teammate walked up to her, almost shy. "You're different lately," he said. Lily smiled. Maybe I've just stopped doing other people's jobs. He laughed, unsure if she was joking. She wasn't. Strategic kindness isn't about being clever or manipulative. It's about knowing your value and giving only where that value is honored. It's about choosing when to give, how much to give, and to whom. It's about understanding that your time, energy, and care are not unlimited. They are resources, and resources must be managed. Lily used to think that if she gave less, she would become less lovable. Now she understood something deeper. The more wisely she gave, the more people respected what she gave. At home, Lily also started shifting her patterns. There was a friend, Sophie, who always called late at night, usually to complain. She never asked Lily about her day, never offered comfort. She simply took space, night after night. Lily used to answer the phone every time, even when she was exhausted. But now she let it ring. She watched it light up, then dim, then ring again, then stop. No message followed. No check-in the next day. Sophie didn't ask why Lily didn't pick up. Because people who take often don't notice until the supply ends. Lily realized some relationships only survive when you stay silent. And if silence is what holds it together, maybe it's not worth holding. Instead, Lily began investing in smaller, quieter friendships. People who didn't need her to carry everything. People who gave back without being asked. As she noticed how different it felt when kindness flowed both ways. Not a transaction, not a scorecard, just balance. She didn't feel drained after those conversations. She felt seen. She felt safe. She felt strong. That's when she wrote a new phrase on her bedroom mirror. Be kind, but never to the point of self-erasure. And through all of this, Lily discovered something even more surprising. People began to trust her more. Not because she said yes to everything, but because they knew when she said yes, she meant it. Her word began to carry more weight. Her presence more calm, her kindness more clarity. One day, her boss pulled her aside after a presentation. "I've noticed your leadership lately," he said. "It's quiet, but it's steady. Have you ever thought about stepping into a more official leadership role?" Lily blinked. That was unexpected. She had never raised her voice, never pushed to be seen. But maybe that was the point. In a world full of noise, her intentional silence had spoken louder than ever. That night, Lily walked home with her hands in her pockets and a softness in her smile. She passed the flower shop she used to stop at on weekends. The owner waved. She waved back. And as she waited at the crosswalk, watching the lights change, she thought to herself, "I'm still kind." But now, Lily once believed that to be kind meant to be constantly available, to answer every message quickly, to say yes whenever someone asked, to show up even when she was running on empty. She thought that kindness meant presence, always being there. But the more she gave, the more invisible she felt. And the more she showed up, the more people stopped noticing she was there. That was the hardest truth to accept. Not that her kindness wasn't appreciated, but that her constant kindness had become expected, even ignored. People stopped thanking her, stopped checking in, stopped treating her as someone who chose to give. They treated her like someone who simply had to. And that realization cut deep. One evening, she was walking home after helping a colleague with a last-minute presentation. It was already dark, and the streets were mostly quiet. Her legs ached. Her eyes burned. But more than that, her heart felt used. She remembered how the colleague had said, "You're a lifesaver," just a week before, and then, earlier that day, had talked over her in a meeting like she didn't exist. Lily had smiled, like she always did. But tonight, something inside her said, no more. That weekend, she didn't answer her phone. Not for work, not for favors, not for anyone who had gotten used to the idea that Lily would always be there. Instead, she read. She walked alone by the river, she wrote. She listened not to others but to herself. And in that quiet, she began to notice something strange and powerful. No one truly missed her presence. Not the ones who constantly took. Not the ones who only came to her when they needed. Her absence didn't bother them, because her presence had been too easy to access. And that was when Lily understood something she had never realized before. If you're always available, people start to believe you have nothing more valuable to do. She remembered another line she had read once in The Prince. Excessive familiarity breeds contempt. At the time, she didn't like the sound of it. It felt cold, almost cruel. But now it made sense. If you give something in abundance, without limit, without pause, it becomes background noise. Even love, if given without care, can be overlooked. Even kindness, if poured without boundaries, can be taken for granted. So Lily made a new decision. She would no longer be available all the time, not to punish anyone, but to protect herself, to protect her energy, her worth, her presence, because when something is rare, it becomes precious. And when something is always there, it starts to disappear. On Monday, she arrived at work on time, but no longer early. She smiled, but didn't force conversation. When someone sent her a last-minute, urgent task, she replied simply, "I'm unavailable right now. Please send with more notice next time." She didn't over-explain, she didn't say sorry. And surprisingly, they didn't argue. People started to pause before making requests. They started to plan before asking for her time. And most importantly, they started to respect her space. It wasn't always easy, There were moments she felt guilty. Moments she wondered if she was becoming selfish. Moments when people looked confused by her new distance. But over time, that distance didn't feel like coldness. It felt like air, like space to breathe. Like a line drawn around her, not to shut people out, but to let her energy grow stronger within. At home, she also made changes. She stopped saying yes to every gathering, every dinner, every late-night phone call. When someone texted, "Hey, are you free tonight?" she didn't rush to respond. Sometimes she simply answered, "Not tonight, I'm resting." And those who valued her presence learned to wait, to ask earlier, to check how she was doing, not just what she could give. Those who didn't faded, and Lily let them go softly without bitterness. Because she finally understood not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. Your time is not a hallway. It's a home, and not everyone should get a key. One afternoon, she met Emma for coffee. It had been a few weeks. Emma looked at her and smiled. "You feel different," she said, "quieter, but in a good way." Lily nodded. "I've been practicing something." "What?" "Distance," Lily said simply. Emma raised an eyebrow. "Not emotional distance," Lily continued, "just energetic distance. I stopped being everywhere all the time. I stopped trying to prove I care by always being available." Emma nodded slowly. "And what happened?" Lily sipped her tea, then said, "The people who truly cared about me came closer. The ones who didn't stopped calling." "And how do you feel about that?" Lily smiled, free. She began to notice something else too. Now that she wasn't constantly overextending herself, she had more to give to the right people. Her conversations became deeper, her presence more present, her kindness more meaningful, because it was no longer scattered, it was focused, chosen, intentional, and people could feel the difference. A month later, her manager asked her to take on a mentorship role for a new employee. "We've noticed how you carry yourself," he said. "There's a calmness, a maturity. I think someone could learn from that." Lily was surprised, not because she didn't feel ready, but because it was the first time someone had recognized her for her inner strength, not just her helpfulness. She accepted the role with one condition. "I'd like to protect my time outside of work hours," she said, "to make sure I show up fully when I'm here." Her manager nodded. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say." That night, Lily walked home under the fading light of sunset. She thought about the younger version of herself, the girl who tried to be good enough by being everything for everyone. That girl was kind, but she was also tired. Now, Lily was still kind, but she was also wise. She had learned the truth the world never teaches out loud. The more rare your energy becomes, the more others treasure it. Lily was no longer loud in her kindness. She didn't need to be. She had stopped over-explaining. Stopped rushing to respond. Stopped giving immediate answers just to fill the silence. And in that space, in that stillness, she found something new. Not fear, not distance, but calm. And with that calm came a quiet kind of confidence. The kind you don't shout about. The kind that speaks even when you say nothing. It started on a Tuesday morning. There had been a mistake in a report, a serious one. Emails flew. Blame circled like a storm. Voices were raised in the office. People pointed fingers, trying to protect themselves. Lily had been part of the project, but not the error. Still, her name was included in the panic. The old Lily would have jumped to defend herself, would have written long replies, apologizing for something she didn't do just to keep the peace. But this time she didn't. She read the messages. She waited. Then she wrote one short email. Here's my part of the report, sent on the original deadline. Let me know how I can support the fix. That was it, no emotion, no drama, no panic. And just like that, the fire passed over her. People realized, people remembered. And more than that, they noticed her calm. While others were spinning in circles, Lily stood still. In meetings, too, her calm became a quiet weapon. She didn't rush to fill silences. She didn't speak just to be heard. She waited. She watched. And when she finally spoke, people listened. Because her words weren't just words anymore. They were signals. Signals that she had thought deeply, that she wasn't reacting, that she was choosing her moment. And that made her dangerous in the best way. Lily had never wanted to intimidate anyone. That was never her goal. But she had spent years being easy to dismiss, smiling through frustration, laughing off disrespect, absorbing criticism that didn't belong to her. Now she was done with that. She was still kind, still soft-spoken, still gracious. But she was no longer easy to read, and that made people slow down before they crossed her. Emma noticed the change first. During lunch one day, she said, "You've become unreadable, in a good way." Lily raised an eyebrow. "Unreadable?" Emma nodded. "Before, I always knew what you were feeling. You wore it on your face. But now you're calmer, more centered. It's like people don't know how to throw you off anymore." Lily smiled gently. "Maybe it's because I stopped giving my reactions away." Emma blinked. "What do you mean?" "I used to react to everything," Lily explained. "A raised voice made me anxious. Silence made me nervous. A cold message made me rush to explain myself. But now, I just pause, I breathe. I wait." Emma looked impressed. "That sounds powerful." "It is," Lily said. "Not because I'm controlling others, but because I'm no longer letting them control me." That was Lily's greatest discovery so far. Whoever controls your emotions controls you. If someone can make you angry, they can push you. If someone can make you doubt yourself, they can slow you down. If someone knows that you'll always respond, they can plan around it. But when you stay still, stay steady, stay calm, you become unpredictable. And in that unpredictability, you become powerful. There was one day in particular that tested this new strength. A team meeting had gone off track. A senior colleague made a passive-aggressive remark clearly aimed at Lily. It was subtle but sharp, meant to embarrass her. Everyone waited to see what she would do. Lily looked up, held his gaze, and said nothing. No defense. No smile. Just silence, steady and unblinking. Then she returned to her notes. The room shifted. Something in the air changed. The remark fell flat. And the man who often got what he wanted through manipulation went quiet. Because Lily's silence had said everything, "You don't get to rattle me anymore." After the meeting, a junior colleague pulled her aside. "Can I ask, how did you stay so calm?" I would have snapped. Lily thought for a moment, then replied, "Because snapping would have given him exactly what he wanted." She smiled gently. Calm isn't weakness, it's control. She had come to understand that the world often tests people with quiet traps. The comment designed to provoke you. The delay meant to frustrate you. The silence meant to make you chase. The coldness meant to break your confidence. And the only real way to pass these tests is not to react, at least not right away. Let the moment breathe. Let others show who they are. Let silence work in your favor, because often the first to react is the one who loses. But the one who waits, who watches, who moves with intention wins. At night, Lily began practicing what she called her quiet rituals, writing her thoughts instead of arguing, breathing through discomfort instead of explaining it, choosing silence when words would be wasted. Not silence from fear, silence from strength. One night she journaled, "People fear storms, but the eye of the storm is always calm. That's who I want to be." The calm center that cannot be shaken. Lily no longer feared tension. She no longer needed to fill the air with soft words just to make others comfortable. She let things be uncomfortable sometimes. She let people wonder what she was thinking. She let herself not explain. And this gave her a kind of elegance she'd never known. Not the elegance of appearance, but the elegance of emotional control. She began to see the ripple effects of this calm in her relationships. People didn't push her like they used to. They listened more carefully. They paused before saying things they might regret, and not because she had become cruel or cold, but because they sensed her boundaries now and didn't want to test them. Lily had become what she never thought she could be: kind, calm. There was a time when Lily felt the need to act always. If there was a problem, she rushed to solve it. If there was silence, she rushed to fill it. If someone asked, she answered immediately. It made her feel useful, reliable, like she was doing the right thing. But deep down, it also left her tired, not just in her body, but in her spirit. Because not everything needs an immediate reaction, and not everything is worth your energy right now. That was something Lily had only begun to understand. Her shift toward patience didn't happen overnight. It started the same way most growth does, with discomfort. There was a promotion being discussed at work. A new leadership role was opening. Everyone knew. People were moving faster, scheduling meetings, speaking louder in team calls, making sure they were noticed. Lily felt the same urge rise in her chest. The old pattern. The need to act quickly, to secure her place, to not fall behind. But something told her to wait, not because she didn't want the role, but because she wanted to watch first, carefully. So she did. She observed how others moved. Who talked too much, who tried too hard, who exposed their plans too early. She noticed the quiet ones too, the ones who watched like she did, the ones who didn't rush, and she began to see a pattern. Those who moved too fast revealed too much. Those who waited learned where to step. While others made noise, Lily built quiet influence. She offered small ideas that were picked up by leadership. She took responsibility for small problems and fixed them before they became visible. She didn't push herself into the spotlight. She positioned herself calmly, clearly, intentionally. And when the time came, when the manager asked for feedback on candidates, her name was already there. Not because she had asked, but because she had been seen. Not for her volume, but for her presence. It reminded her of something she had once read. A hunter does not chase the deer through the whole forest. He waits, he studies, he knows exactly when to strike. That's what patience had become for her, not passivity, but strategy. She started practicing it in conversations too. When someone said something rude or unfair, she didn't respond right away. She paused, not to avoid but to observe. Was this person angry or insecure? Were they attacking her or just lashing out? Did this situation deserve her voice or her silence? That pause gave her power. She learned that not every fire needs her to run toward it. Some fires burn themselves out. Some conflicts resolve without her. Some arguments reveal more when she says nothing at all. Lily also began to apply patience to her personal goals. She used to chase everything: better roles, better habits, better connections. She wanted change now, results now. But now she saw the beauty of slow growth. She stopped expecting everything in a week. She stopped measuring her worth by quick progress. Instead, she chose consistency over speed, a little every day, a little smarter each week, a little deeper each season. And suddenly, things started to move, not because she forced them, but because she was ready when they did. People began to see her differently. They came to her for calm, for guidance, for perspective. One day, a younger teammate said to her, "You always know when to speak and when to wait. How do you do that?" Lily smiled softly. "I stopped needing to prove I'm ready. I started showing I'm steady." She wrote in her journal that night, "I used to want everything now, but now I know the right moment is more powerful than the right effort." A strategic patience also helped her in relationships. There was someone new in her life, a man she had met through a mutual friend. He was kind but unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes distant. The old Lily would have chased clarity, would have asked early questions, looked for quick answers, tried to control the direction. But this time she did something different. She gave it space. She didn't rush to define. She watched how he handled silence, how he responded to boundaries, how he treated her when she didn't overextend. In that space, the truth revealed itself. He liked the idea of her, but not the responsibility of showing up fully. And instead of forcing it, Lily simply stepped back. No drama, no tears, no need for closure, just patience and clarity. Because that's the gift of waiting. The world will show you the truth if you stop rushing to interrupt it. At work, in friendships, in life, Lily moved slower now. Not because she was afraid, but because she had learned that not every opportunity is an invitation. Some are distractions, some are tests, some are traps. And if you move too fast, you walk straight into what was never meant for you. So now Lily waits, she listens. She lets people reveal themselves. She lets time do its work. And when the moment is right, she moves with purpose, with power, without apology. Lily had spent years trying to be good, not just kind, but good in the way the world taught her. Say yes, be helpful, don't offend, stay soft, stay small. She did it all. And what did it bring her? Exhaustion, emptiness. Moments of quiet tears in bathrooms, wondering why being good still left her feeling forgotten. But not anymore. Because now, Lily wasn't trying to survive the game. She was learning to write her own rules. It started with a new mindset. One morning, as she sipped tea near her window, she thought, "What if I stopped trying to fit? What if I stopped living by rules I never agreed to? What if I created a life where kindness isn't weakness, it's power, because I say so?" That question changed everything. From that day forward, Lily stopped asking what people expected of her. She started asking, "What do I expect from myself?" Not based on guilt, not based on fear, but based on truth. She no longer needed to be predictable. In the past, she played the same role in every story. The helper, the listener, the one who said, "It's okay," even when it wasn't. Now she chose her roles more carefully. Sometimes she was supportive. Sometimes she said no. Sometimes she was quiet. And sometimes, when needed, she spoke truths that shook the room. Because she wasn't here to be liked by everyone. She was here to live deeply, fully, honestly. At work, Lily stopped accepting patterns that no longer served her. She used to nod when someone interrupted her. Now, she lifted her hand and calmly said, "Please let me finish." She used to take on extra tasks without question. Now she said, "That's not part of my role. Let's delegate fairly." She used to apologize for taking up space. Now, she filled the room not loudly, but with grounded presence. Not because someone gave her permission, but because she decided she belonged. In her personal life, she changed too. She created space between herself and those who had only known the old version of her. Some people drifted away, not because she pushed them, but because she stopped shrinking to keep them close. And others, the ones who truly saw her, drew nearer. They respected her more, because now Lily was not trying to please them. She was simply being herself with clarity, with strength, with depth. One day, Emma asked her, "Do you ever feel lonely now that you're so clear about what you want?" Lily thought for a moment. "Sometimes," she said, "but not in the way I used to." Emma raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "In the past, I felt lonely even in a room full of people, because I had to keep giving, keep performing to be accepted." She paused, then smiled. "Now I'm just alone sometimes, but I'm not lost. So I'm not invisible, I'm me, and honestly, I like my own company more now." Emma nodded slowly. "That's rare." Lily replied softly, "That's freedom." She had stopped living like someone who needed to be chosen. She had chosen herself, and in doing so, created a new standard for how others could treat her. She wasn't harsh, but she was no longer available for disrespect, no longer afraid to walk away from imbalance, no longer trying to earn love with labor. Lily had become something most people never get the chance or courage to become: an anomaly. Not because she was strange, but because she refused to follow broken patterns. She didn't react as expected. She didn't play roles that exhausted her. She didn't explain her every boundary or soften every edge of her truth. And that made her powerful in ways the world didn't always understand, but always felt. One evening, as the sun set in golden silence, Lily stood on her apartment balcony. She looked out at the city, calm and steady. She thought of all the versions of herself she had outgrown. The quiet girl who couldn't say no. The tired woman who smiled through being used. The soft soul who thought goodness meant never protecting herself. And now, she didn't hate those versions. She honored them. Because without them, she would have never reached this one. The version who could still be kind, but also command respect. The version who could still listen, but also be heard. The version who could still give, but only from a full place, never from an empty one. Lily no longer asked, "Am I good enough?" Instead, she asked, "Is this good for me?" And that one question changed everything. In her journal that night, she wrote the final page of a chapter she had lived for too long. I was never weak. I was simply too generous with people who didn't deserve the strongest parts of me. Now, I don't give everything. I give wisely. I give when it matters. I give to those who give back. I'm still